I knew there's something different. I saw you in a brand new way, like the clouds had somehow lifted. And if yesterday I hurt myself.
Welcome and many thanks for joining us on this week's edition of My Society. Today we are going to be looking at an issue that many Kenyans would not love to associate themselves with, and this is on the issue of monuments.
Anything monumental is something of significance. It can be historic, social, economic, KICC. It can be an identity marker. For instance, when somebody dies and you put a headstone, that's a monument. You're marking that place. You're marking that person's presence. So monument is something that celebrates importance for a specific reasons. A monument plays many things. It can be a memory space. So for instance, the memorial site for the 1998 bombing is a focal point. It's a place where people come and remember. So monuments have memorial weight. Others, they have aesthetics element. For instance, the old part of the town, like Koja Mosque, Jamia Mosque, Kipande House, they're beautiful old buildings, but also they're a backdrop to a bygone time. Although they don't have the same emotional kind of weight as you'll have in the 1998 site, which is specific to the people who died there. And so on and so forth. So monuments, KICC is a monument which tells you have reached Nairobi. You know, you are in Nairobi. So in some monuments are markers of places, others are markers of identities. For instance, the Kiti Mikai, the stone in Western Kenya, is a specific cultural monument with a lot of mythology around it. Mount Kenya, again, is a very specific monument which has lots of myth and historical associations with the communities around there, but also with the making of the country Kenya. So monuments are different levels of significance.
My name is Henry Kimathi. I am trained as an economist and an IT person. Currently, I'm engaged in an online initiative called Enchanted Landscapes. The whole idea of Enchanted Landscapes began way back when I was in the university, as I interacted with different people from different cultures and mostly from outside the country. I realized that people knew very little about Kenya as a country. And so I took it upon myself as an initiative to begin to put together some online content that people can be able to refer to and be able to understand what Kenya is as a country. And therefore that really gave birth to Enchanted Landscapes. Being also a web developer, this was my playground just to test some of my IT skills. But slowly it grew to something that I saw people beginning to get interested and getting serious about. And so very recently, maybe about 4 or 5 years, we thought of now making it into a business, but still our content is free for people to access. The way we make money in these enterprise is through online advertising.
We will tour Nairobi and showcase some of the forgotten monuments that play a very significant role to what the city is.
Monuments in Kenya and actually everywhere in the world have a significant historical connotation to them. They remind us of the journey we have traveled as a country or as a nation. And in Kenya, therefore, it's no exception. Every single monument we have has a rich historical background to it. And it is very good that Kenyans continually refer to some of these monuments just to remind ourselves of where we have come from and therefore derive pride in the journey we have taken, so that the future then can be defined by some of these monuments. Some of them are painful, some of them bring joy, but nevertheless, every particular monument we have in this country at the moment has a very rich, significant history, and therefore the need for us to really safeguard our monuments for posterity.
History is key, but also I can just be passing beauty. Taj Mahal in India is less about history than about beauty of architecture. It's just shocking that somebody built one of the most perfect buildings in the world to be a grave. And it's just a monument of love, more than a monument of history. It's this king whose wife Mumtaz died set up this. So it's a memorial, a backdrop for various things. History is very significant, but it can be aesthetics, it can be statements.
Monuments in Kenya, some of them, of course, are things that we can own as a nation because they remind us of historical figures or historical events that took place and shaped Kenya as we know it today. But some of them, of course, unfortunately, were really just set up to edify personalities or individuals, and some of them have even been shunned by Kenyans. They don't really pose any significance, and therefore are probably even breaking down to pieces because no one really thinks about them so much.
I don't know how many Kenyans were able to witness this, but right where we are standing at the Jivaji Gardens is where the first ASK happened in Nairobi.
Most people, when we talk about monuments, they think it's only probably a structure made of marble and slab like what we have here at the Uhuru grounds. But really, monuments are something that remind us or signify something historical that happened, or remind us of where we are going as a nation. So a monument really can be anything, not really just a statue. For instance, look at Jivanji. There's quite a lot of rich history behind the Jivanji Gardens, having been the first ASK showground in Kenya before we moved to Jamhuri. There's quite a lot of rich history behind that.
We have rule of the thumb. First of all, most of the monuments that we have in town, if you look at especially the architectural monuments, like this house is a monument. It's almost 100 years old. So if you're over 50 going upwards, then we give you consideration. But also, what is the historical or cultural or economic or identity importance of this monument? Like KICC was built in the 60s, but it's an icon. So that iconic nature of KICC, that aspect which situates you within Nairobi, has made it become a monument, an important monument. Because if you can't imagine Nairobi without KICC, and so on and so forth. So when we feel that a building qualifies to be a monument, we have researchers who go and research about it. They look at various factors. For instance, they look at the history of the building, who built it, who occupied it, what was it used for.
And just a few meters away from the Jivanji Gardens, we come across the city market. Very little is known of its origin.
City market, even though today it's losing a bit of its ancient glamour or its old glamour, but it's really a place that we can resonate with from the early beginnings. You will be very interested or very, very surprised to know that City Market began as a aircraft hangar, and that is why it has that very unique shape that attracts thousands and thousands of tourists from all over the world to come and see it. But it transformed then later on into a very hypermarket, a place where you can get anything from artifacts, from handicrafts, clothes, and even fresh produce from different farms. And City Market today probably is being beaten by the new supermarkets coming up, but it's trying to rejuvenate itself. You of course know that now it's a 24-hour place, so you can shop there anytime, and that is part of the City Council's efforts to try and rejuvenate the strength and the glamour it used to have in the 60s.
The next monument is one that Kenyans will be shocked to know of its significance not only to Kenya but to neighboring countries. It was put up back in 1939.
The Galton Frenzy Memorial, most of you probably would not know it, but it's that monument, interesting monument, just in front of the Basilica and opposite the General Post Office. And this is a monument that actually marks a great man by the same name, Galton Frenzy. And Galton Frenzy is remembered in the country as the man who probably set the roadmap for some of the roads we use to different towns. Like, he's known to have driven from Nairobi to Mombasa, and therefore marking that as the route that people use to go to our coastal town. Galton Frenzy in Kenya is remembered for having founded or set the foundation of the East African Automobile Association that later on became what we know as the Automobile Association of Kenya. Galton Frenzy is remembered with that monument where in it is marked the different routes he helped found. The sadness of it today is that it is now converted to a smoking zone. If you notice, they've even put a cage around it, that most people who remember the history behind it and are nostalgic about what Galton did, don't now find that to be very good. And really, tourists who are coming to the place can't even engage with the monument because of the cage around it. It is now designated as a smoking zone for the people of Nairobi in that part of the town.
So communities are stakeholders in most of this. Obviously, even in the urban areas, the people will say, there's a lot of history. For instance, we're working very closely with the community in Kamkunji. And they're the ones who come to call us and say, hey, come, there's a very important old building. It used to be a hospital. During the Second World War, it turned into a barrack. Now it is the chief's office, but it's going to be pulled down by a private developer. And we don't want that to be pulled down because it's part of our communal history. We always used to congregate around it. So you get communities that are very active. They know what is important to them. Again, if you go to Shimoni, we have the Shimoni Cave, which is a monument. And the Shimoni Cave is run by the community themselves, protected and run by them. The museum facilitates them. And the money they get from that cave goes to healthcare, education. They're actually educating somebody in the university using that money. So communities are not inert, they are active in some cases. In other cases, you come into not to Wangoi, but to other specialized community. Some of the old buildings are architectural gems. So the architectural community will have a lot of interest. If you touch it, they will make a lot of noise. So at any one time, whenever we work on monuments, we work with different stakeholders.
On the same street is another major monument marking its 100 years of existence in 2013.
And the old PC at the corner near Nyayo House is a good example. It was it was the center of Nairobi. That's where all the measurements are taken. So if you say Mombasa is 500 kilometers, it's from there. Yeah, literally, this PC was sitting at the center of Kenya. More than that, also, it was where birth, death, marriages, everything was registered there. It later turned into, it became a magistrate court because the DC was also the magistrate, and so on and so forth. So a building like that, because of all those collections of things that happened around there, and my grandmother remembered it as the place where the judge used to be. So because of all that memory, it becomes a very important building to be gazetted. So we move in, we gazette it.
The well-known freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi was shot dead in Nyeri, but his monument erected back here in Nairobi, begging questions, would it be of more significance if his monument was back in Nyeri?
Yes, again, these monuments happened before the county government, but also thanks to the current government. There was no Dedan Kimathi before. We never celebrated him for almost 40-something years of our nation, which is a scandal. We never remembered Tom Mboya, who, if you look at all the photographs of Lancaster House, he was the major negotiator. He was so respected by the Europeans because of the work he was doing. But also he was one of our key freedom fighters. So that is a bold step. You know, just unveiling these monuments in a space which was empty is looking at our city in a different way, okay, and honoring our heroes. So we will not stop at that. We're going to honor Ronald Ngala and some other heroes within Nairobi. Take Nairobi as our big shrine. But still, Ronald Ngala can have a representation back at home, whether it's in Kilifi or in Mombasa. Dedan Kimathi can have a representation back in Nyeri, probably where he was shot. There was a proposal that we should have a monument and a little site museum where he was shot dead, and so on and so forth. But having a presence in Nairobi is a bigger honor. If you look at it, our president, first president, Jomo Kenyatta, is buried in Nairobi, not in Gatundu. You know, it's a bigger honor. But also there's a higher visibility. There are more people passing through Nairobi than, say, through Mandera in a day. So county governments will have their thing going on, but as a national government, we have a bigger overview of honoring our heroes.
The most recent statue of Tom Mboya enjoys the greatest viewership due to its strategic position, where now it has even become a source of livelihood to many.
I think it is really unfortunate what is happening to the Tom Mboya monument. It is a place that we really must protect because that's a son of Kenya. He really contributed a lot, and that's in a little way how we as Kenyans are remembering his legacy. And therefore what is happening there, the monument is already disintegrating. I think so much needs to be done in terms of protecting our monuments, having some just normal patrols, making sure that they pass around that place to stop such things happening.
Kenyans are very sad. Kenyans are almost illiterate on heritage, and it's deliberate. We're very good at accounting, aeronautic, engineering, computing, we've even met M-Pesa. But we are running away from our own selves. We are running off from our heritage. Kenyans don't spend time on heritage. How many of them visit museums? But how many of them visit pubs and other entertainment places on Friday? If you go to Europe, it's the opposite. When a European lands first in a capital city, they head for the museum. That's where you know people and their culture. So I think Kenyans have their own homework.
Or even make sure that we engage or commission people who can do much more longer lasting monuments, because these are things that are in the public domain, and therefore the public will always interact and engage with them. We must build things that can be able to take all the roughness that the population will vent upon them and be able to still withstand the test of time. Like the monument on Kenyatta Avenue, it has really stayed there, and yet that's a high traffic place and it has stood the test of time. So those two aspects, we need to protect our monuments, but besides that we must put quality work into their construction so that they can last longer.
You'll find people pulling down old buildings. Now if you go to Isli, the old Isli is not there anymore. It's a very different Isli from the one I lived in when I was a young boy. So yes, Kenyans do not have the knowledge, but the knowledge is there. Books are out there now on monuments of Nairobi. We have even made also a map of Nairobi circuit of monuments, which we are launching soon, and so on and so forth. So we're also trying as a museum to put information out there.
We are along Kenyatta Avenue where we meet these three people. Actually, this is a monument that we have tried to look for its name, but we have none. All that we have is that this is to the memory of the native African troops who fought, to the carriers who are the feet and hands of the army, to all other men who served and died for their king and country in Eastern Africa in the Great War of 1914 to 1918. If you fight for your country, even if you die, your sons will be remembered all along. And just to show you how Kenyans are using their monuments, we are going to cross over to the other side of the road and actually see the mistreatment that Kenyans are doing to their monuments. This monument too is to honor those who took part in World War I and World War II, and despite it being at the heart of the CBD, somebody must have been lighting a fire here. For what purposes, I don't know. And as we cross over to this other side, this place smells like, okay, more than a urinal. And according to what I see, this has been used as a urinal and to some extent for the other bigger purposes. And this is just some of the examples that as we consider the monument is degrading more and more. And how I pity this, because this is a monument that should be actually taken care of more than it is right now. However, despite these challenges, the National Museum is on the trend to introduce one ticket that will facilitate for a whole tour of museums within Nairobi, as well as the historical sites and monuments.
Yes, there's a bill in Parliament which has been delayed by all the other business that has been going on in Parliament. The bill is a Heroes and Heroines Commission bill. Before that, then we want to set up the Hero Square in Uhuru Gardens, and then probably a whole complex of buildings and libraries and places where you can go in and just read about heroes. And hopefully we're also building a lot of mausolea. The latest mausoleum we finished is Fred Kubai Mausoleum in Maimahiu. We've done Chianganeko, we've done Jaramogi, Oginga Odinga, which is, go to those places, they're really beautiful places. Ngei, Munyao, and so on and so forth. So that is ongoing. But I think the bigger thing in Nairobi will be the Heroes and Heroines Square, what we call the Mashujaa Square. One of the things that people don't talk about, that suffers during conflict, is the heritage, the monuments. The museums get looted. It happened in Baghdad. Baghdad Museum, which holds the whole history of Mesopotamia, was emptied within seconds of the American invasion. It's one of the, it is the museum of mankind, of all of us, you know, for us to understand ourselves. One of the best old towns, one of the best Swahili civilizations, or similar to Swahili civilization, was in Mogadishu. It was more beautiful than Mombasa. But now there's nothing, completely destroyed. The old Mogadishu is gone. It has to be rebuilt anew. So for Kenyans, when we fight, we will destroy our heritage. But also it's not only our heritage. We hold fossils which are about human civilization. Our monuments here talk about bigger links between Kenya and the world, which through the British and so on and so forth. If we destroy all this, we'll end up with an empty slate. We'll end up with a blank blackboard. There'll be silence in our history. And that silence in our history means there'll be silence in terms of the position of Kenya in the world. We don't want that. We can turn our heritage to celebrate our collective destiny, our oneness, that we have withstood so many things from the 600 years of the Swahili civilization to the present time. But still, we are Kenyans. You can be any tribe, but we are Kenyans. I think that it is very important for us to look at our heritage and say, we want our children also to inherit something from us. And that something has to be positive.
This has been the Society Eye Opener, and it's our sincere hope that the next time you visit the streets of Nairobi, you will take some time and learn of the monuments and learn of their significance in the society.
Open my eyes today, and I knew there's something different. I saw you in a brand